We've talked about soil preparation and the use of cover crops, both for soil health and for erosion control, as we help you go garden. This is another great thing you can do, and you can actually start this as soon as you have the energy to do so, and that would be to create your own compost. Compost is one of the fabulous additives that helps improve that soil health, and the beautiful part of this is if you do it correctly, it is absolutely free. It's one of those great sustainable practices. We've done a lot about composting on Backyard Farmer, including how to actually build the compost bins that you see before you, and we have that online. But a couple of things that new gardeners really need to know about this. First off, to be able to get really high quality compost, there is a mix of materials that makes all the difference in the world. That includes something that is carbon-based, and the obvious one in the fall of the year is the brown matter that would be all those leaves that are falling on your lawn, that are clogging up your gutters, all those great big beautiful brown leaves. The second is a source of nitrogen, and that is the green material. So it is kitchen waste as long as they are scraps of vegetables and fruits, and as long as they are not too horribly awful, or the green waste that is weed materials or the plants that you're cutting back in your garden. And the third is something like soil, so we add soil to it. Now, the thing that happens with compost is the right mix of those materials with the addition of moisture so that they don't dry out will bring that compost to the best possible temperature. If the compost doesn't heat up properly, a couple of things are going to happen. The first of those could be if you've added food scraps and all you've really done is just pile them on top of the compost bin. They're going to deteriorate, but they're also going to smell pretty awful. And if you are a lovely marauding critter, one of Dennis's critters, you just might decide that rather than going off and eating what you should, you're going to go scrounging in the compost bin. The second is if it is too wet, it's going to be really, really soggy and smell terrible. If it's too dry, it's not going to break down at all. You'll see and you'll hear people talk about, and you can actually purchase in a lot of locations, something called a compost accelerator and something called a compost inoculator. Both of those are not necessary if you built your compost pile correctly. The accelerator actually just adds nitrogen. If you have, again, that source of nitrogen that would be the green materials, you're not going to need the accelerator. If you have soil that already has those microbes in it, you are unlikely to need an inoculum. But what you want to do is you want to make sure, if you really do want to accelerate the process of composting, a bin like ours is great because it allows air movement. It is easy to take each piece off, each of the three sections off, flip that compost without having to flip the whole thing, and introduce air and moisture. And one of the things you can do immediately is, rather than put in big old chunks like this, chop them up into finer pieces. So one of the things we'll look at right quick is what happens if you put unchopped leaves, all that brown matter, in a compost pile and just layer things on top of it. Don't wet it, don't add the green material, and don't add all of the soil. They don't break down even after a year and a half. If you chop them up with your mower really, really finely, add them to the compost, you will end up right quick with that black gold that you can then spread on your new garden to wonderful depths to get those great vegetables and flowers.